A North Texan can usually tell when somebody has never really separated Dallas from Fort Worth. They will say DFW, like it is one big city, one personality, one rhythm, one housing market, one kind of life. And to be fair, the label is useful. North Central Texas is officially treated as a 16-county region centered around two urban centers, Dallas and Fort Worth. But a regional label is not the same thing as a daily life. Fort Worth versus Dallas is not a winner-take-all contest. It is a fit question. By the end, the real test is pace, work gravity, housing and commute, cultural identity, and which side your life keeps pulling you toward. 1. The Metroplex is real, the shortcut is the problem. The first thing to understand is that DFW is not fake. The region is connected by highways, jobs, airports, suburbs, sports media, business travel, and a whole lot of people who cross city lines without thinking much about it. That is why outsiders collapse it into one place. But locals know the shortcut has limits. Dallas and Fort Worth sit inside the same regional machine. But they do not always give you the same week. Where you work matters. Which side your friends live on matters. Where your kids have activities matters. Which airport entrance you use matters. And how far you are willing to drive on a tired Thursday night can change the answer. The map makes these places look like cousins who share a last name. Daily life makes them feel more like two different anchors pulling on the same rope. So the better question is not, are they connected? They are. The better question is, connected to what kind of life? 2. Fort Worth is not small. Dallas is not the whole story. One reason this comparison gets sloppy is that Dallas has long been the bigger national name. People hear Dallas Cowboys, Dallas Airport, Dallas Skyline, Dallas Business, Dallas this, Dallas that. Fort Worth gets folded into the brand even when it should not. But the population numbers make the sidekick idea feel outdated. In July 2025 census estimates, Dallas was about 1.33 million people. Fort Worth was already over 1.02 million. Dallas is still larger, but Fort Worth is not some little western stop sitting outside the real city. It is a million-plus city with its own gravity, and Fort Worth's growth has been hard to ignore. In 2024 census estimates, Fort Worth crossed the 1 million population threshold. The census also listed it fifth nationally for numeric city population gained between 2023 and 2024. That does not make Fort Worth better. Population is not a livability score, but it does change the mental picture. This is not Dallas versus a town. It is a major city beside another major city, inside one of the country's most important metro regions. Fort Worth is not small or static. Dallas is not the entire story. 3. History still shapes the rhythm. The daily life difference did not appear because someone needed a YouTube comparison topic. It comes from how the two cities grew up. Dallas began as a Trinity River trading post location. Then it grew through rail access, airport-era connectivity, corporate headquarters, and a financial and business identity. That history still shows up in the way Dallas often presents itself. Bigger skyline energy, stronger corporate pull, more polished regional branding, and a kind of ambition that does not really apologize for itself. That does not mean every Dallas neighborhood feels like a boardroom. Dallas has old neighborhoods, immigrant communities, arts districts, food scenes, and plenty of ordinary Texas life. But the city's public personality has long leaned commercial. Fort Worth's visible civic memory comes from a different track. Cattle drives, rail access, livestock markets, packing plants, and the stockyards. That legacy is why the Western identity is not just a costume sitting on top of the city. It is part of how Fort Worth learned to describe itself. Now, that does not mean Fort Worth is rural. It is not. It has museums, hospitals, universities, major employers, big roads, growth pressure, and all the complications of a large modern city. But when people say Fort Worth feels different, they are usually picking up on something real, a different civic rhythm, a different local pride, a different way of carrying history into the present. Dallas often feels like it is reaching outward. Fort Worth often feels like it is protecting something while growing anyway. That tension explains a lot. 4. Work gravity can decide more than personality does. Here is where the comparison gets practical. A lot of people start with vibe. They ask which city feels better, which downtown looks better, or which one has the better reputation. But for daily life, Work gravity may matter more than civic personality. Dallas has a deep business and financial services pull. The Dallas Fed describes the Dallas-Plano-Irving division as Texas's business and financial services hub and says business services employed 17.3% of that workforce in 2023. That is not just a statistic. It means Dallas-side life can pull people into professional networks, corporate offices, clients, flights, meetings, and industries that make the city feel faster and more outward-facing. Fort Worth has its own version of gravity. And it is not just Dallas spillover. The Fort Worth Economic Development Partnership describes the Fort Worth region as an aerospace, defense, mobility, and logistics hub. It cites 23,500 aerospace and defense workers and 55,000 mobility and logistics workers in the six-county Fort Worth region. That matters because the Fort Worth side is not just a quieter bedroom for Dallas. It has its own industrial and professional logic. So if you are comparing the two cities, do not only ask which one has the better skyline or the nicer weekend. Ask where your work life actually points. If your job, clients, airport habits, and professional network keep dragging you east, Dallas may make more sense. If your work is tied to Fort Worth side of the region, Western Tarrant County, aerospace, logistics, defense, or a slower civic pace with major city infrastructure, Fort Worth may feel more natural. The city that fits you may be the city your calendar has already chosen. 5. Housing and commute are where the easy takes breakdown. This is the section where people want the simple answer. Dallas is expensive, Fort Worth is cheaper. That version is tempting. And sometimes a particular neighborhood or listing search will make it feel true. But citywide evidence does not let the script be that lazy. Census ACS data for 2020 through 2024 shows a mixed picture. Dallas was higher on median owner-occupied home value, while Fort Worth was higher on median gross rent. So the broad cost story depends on what you are measuring. Buying is not renting. A city average is not a neighborhood. And a neighborhood is not the same as your exact street, your household budget, your tax situation, or your commute. Averages can help you avoid myths. They cannot choose your block. Commute is the same way. North Texas is a driving region for many households. NCTCOG reported the average North Texas commute time at 27.1 minutes in 2023. But that regional average does not tell you what happens if you live in one city, work near the other, and try to build a normal week around that drive. That is where the DFW label can trick people. On paper, Dallas and Fort Worth belong to the same Metroplex. In real life, the wrong side of the Metroplex can eat your evenings. A home that looks like a better deal can become less attractive if your job, family, errands, airport routine, or social life are all pointed the other way. This does not make either city a bad choice. It just means the housing question is not only, what can I afford? It is also, what does this location do to my week? 6. The cultural difference is real, but do not turn it into a cartoon. Dallas and Fort Worth both get flattened by outsiders. Dallas gets reduced to money, glass, business, and status. Fort Worth gets reduced to boots, cattle, and Old West branding. Both reductions miss the city. Dallas can be corporate and ambitious, but it is also layered, diverse, creative, and neighborhood-driven. Fort Worth can carry its Western identity proudly, but it is also a large, growing city with serious institutions and modern economic weight. The useful comparison is not stereotype versus stereotype. It is public rhythm. Dallas often feels more regional, more outward-facing, more connected to national business identity, and more comfortable moving fast. Fort Worth often feels more locally self-protective, more historically visible, and a little less interested in asking Dallas for permission to be understood. That difference can matter for visitors. It can matter for movers. It definitely matters for locals who are tired of hearing everything in North Texas called Dallas. But the difference is not about declaring one city more authentic than the other. It is about recognizing that Texas does not explain itself through one skyline, one stockyard, one airport code, or one metro label. 7. The 5-part North Texas Fit Test. So here is the practical way to think about Fort Worth versus Dallas. First, pace. If you want a faster, more outward-facing urban rhythm, Dallas may fit better. If you want a major city that can feel a little more grounded in its local identity, Fort Worth may fit better. Second, work gravity. Do not choose based only on weekend preference. Choose based on where your job, clients, industry meetings, and daily network actually pull you. Third, housing and commute. A lower-looking price or better-looking listing does not solve a bad weekly pattern. Citywide averages are useful, but your real life happens on specific roads, at specific hours, from a specific neighborhood. Fourth, cultural identity. Dallas and Fort Worth both have more depth than their stereotypes, but they do not carry themselves the same way. One may feel more natural to you than the other. Fifth, long-term lifestyle. Ask which city still makes sense after the first impression wears off. Not after one dinner, not after one apartment tour. After a normal month of work, errands, weather, traffic, friends, and weekends. That is the real comparison. DFW is real. The Metroplex matters, but Dallas and Fort Worth are not interchangeable. They can share a region without sharing the same identity. They can sit close on a map without giving you the same life. And if you are trying to understand North Texas before you move, visit, buy, retire, or judge it, that difference is not a technical detail. It is the whole point.